Chase Briscoe beat down the entire field in the Southern 500 with a dominant victory, but was it a good race? We'll recap some of the key moments, some surprising top 5 finishers, and is it time for Hendrick Motorsports to hit that panic button? Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. Chase Briscoe absolutely beat down the entire field on Sunday night at the Southern 500, a Labor Day tradition. And I think, honestly, as much as that's a tradition, the golden hour photos and video that come out of this are one of my favorite things about the Southern 500. That is a tradition unlike any other. I think it's some of the best photos and videos that you'll see of the entire season. Darlington just delivers on being picturesque every single time that sun is setting. But going back to Chase Briscoe, led 309 of the 367 laps on Sunday at the Southern 500. Who does he think he is? Martin Truex Jr., the Coke 600. Just a dominating performance from that number 19 team. Back-to-back races where we've seen dominating performances from drivers. Back in the springtime, you had William Byron lead 243 of the 297 laps in that race. He had to settle for second as Denny Hamlin went on to win. Toyota continued their speed once again this weekend at Darlington. Just absolutely untouchable at times. They had They had the top 4 spots. AJ Allmendinger, surprisingly, was the 5th place car there. But Briscoe was not going to be denied in this race. But from the start, was this a good race? On TikTok, I gave this an 80. I went back and rewatched some of the race on Monday morning, and I think I'm going to lower that just a little bit to like a 77. I enjoyed this race, but it's the ending that kind of soured me a little bit. I thought that the beginning part of this race was pretty entertaining. You had cars being able to make passes. You had multiple different kind of tire strategies, people running long, people undercutting. I thought it was entertaining. I do enjoy Darlington. I do like a high deg tire race. I enjoy those type of races. I know it might not be for everybody. I understand that, but usually it's pretty good. It's how this race ended though, where I was like, dang, the issues still 100% exist. Because in the final 30 laps of this race, the top 4 cars were pretty close. You had Chase Briscoe, you had Tyler Reddick, you had Eric Jones, you had John Hunter Nemechek. The top 3 at one point were under a second separated from one another. And Tyler Reddick had the smallest of chances to try to get past the 19 of Chase Briscoe and ultimately couldn't do it because, well, dirty air existed. I do think that Tyler Reddick in the closing laps of that race was the faster car, but just couldn't find a way around the 19 of Chase Briscoe. He did try to get him with 5 laps to go. He tried to dive down underneath him going into turn 3. Ultimately wasn't going to be able to stick, couldn't get back to the throttle in time, washed up the racetrack, gave up some time. I wonder if he would have waited another lap, if his momentum could have built, and maybe that could have been the answer for him. He did try again on the last lap to drive it down hard into turn 3. Try to get up alongside Briscoe, and he does, but he doesn't want to, of course, wall the 19, take him out of the race, do what Briscoe did to him back at the Bristol Dirt Race in 2022, or what Reddick even did to Chris Buescher last year at the spring Darlington race. So, yeah, that part of it is a bummer. And don't get me wrong, Lee Diffie did a phenomenal job of making it sound super entertaining on TV. His call was great. That's his job. Make you intrigued that, oh man, something can happen here. Keep you engaged. I think myself and most people that have watched NASCAR a lot over the last few years, especially with this car in particular, kind of knew how this race was going to end, and it wasn't going to be with Tyler Reddick getting around Chase Briscoe. The only way Reddick was going to get around Briscoe is if Briscoe, for some reason, decided to run the bottom at some point, and Reddick could have ripped the top. Maybe that could have happened, like we saw at Homestead last year when Blaney decided to go to the middle and Reddick went to the top and was able to go around him. Ultimately, it was Briscoe that was able to capture the checkered flag. First multiple win season for him. Obviously, he won back at Pocono earlier this year. He wins now at the Southern 500, gets his playoffs started off with an absolute bang. He's locked into the round of 12 now. And I said on TikTok, I posted a video last week that Briscoe is going to be an absolute threat in these playoffs. He and that 19 team, they qualify really well. Track position has never been more important than it is right now in NASCAR. And he might be the guy that can get this done. Obviously, he's got to keep his momentum up, but things are setting up pretty well for that 19 team. Now, let's talk about some of the key moments of this race, because on lap 1, Josh Berry, he bottomed out in turn 2 like he was the Alabama football team, goes around for a spin, kind of bounces off the 45 of Tyler Reddick, goes down, touches the inside wall. Really bad night for Josh Berry. First appearance in the playoffs, and he finished dead last in this race. P38 finish for Berry. Not an ideal situation for him. Kyle Busch also got tagged in this wreck, but in a completely separate wreck. He was just checking up and then got tagged. That 8 team, though, they were able to rebound for a P8 finish. I want to make sure I knew it was in the top 10. I want to make sure I knew where he was at there. For Barry, though, this is really bad. He is now 19 points below the cutoff line. Now, having said that, they are headed to Gateway next week, which should be a strong Penske track. And then they're headed to Bristol as well, where he has run pretty strong before. So it's not over for Josh yet, but he used up his one bad race. And unfortunately, it was the worst that you could possibly get. He took home a single point on, 2 points on, on Sunday night. That's not ideal. In stage number 1 as well, we had a 40-plus second stop for Alex Bowman. I've ordered and received food at multiple fast food restaurants faster than that pit stop happened, unless it's Culver's. Culver's is never quick. They go, hey, you want to pull around and stop? Oh, this is going to take forever. Having said that, I've only been to Culver's one time, so maybe that was just an anomaly. Disaster stop, though. The rear tire changer, his air gun stopped working, so he went to swap that out. They handed him a new air gun, and it was not attached to an air hose at all. I think the thought process there was from the guy handing it over the wall was, oh, he'll just do the quick release on his airline that he has, plug that airline into the new gun, and be good to go. Didn't do that. Seemingly maybe an issue with that actual airline. The front tire changer went around to the back on the right side, changed that tire, got it on, went to run around the front of the car. Jackman drops the jack right onto the airline underneath that right front. So he's stuck. They had to go back, jack the car up, bring him around again, and finally they were able to get him out of the pits. A absolutely abysmal night for that 48 team. They ended up finishing 31st. Again, they are also below that cut line as well. Bad night overall. 19 points below cut line, tied with Josh Berry as well. Just an unfortunate night for that 48 team there. We had Brad Keselowski. He had a disastrous pit stop sequence as well, including he had to stop in the 22 pit box for them to put his left front tire back on and make sure that it was secured tightly. It's good to see the Ford Performance boys working together like the TRD boys do as well. So, unsurprisingly, Chase Briscoe would go on to win stage number 1. That should not be a shock to anybody. We also had in stage number 2, we had Chase Elliott and Carson Hocevar. They were going at it. Hocevar seemingly wanted to sort of box out Chase Elliott to make sure that he couldn't shoot the middle. Chase was like, I'm not having this, and just kind of tried to push the 77 down. They didn't take each other out, but selfishly, I kind of wish that they did, because I would love to see a war between the Chase Elliott fan base, the Chase Sexuals, and the Carson Hocevar Hypers, and see what exactly that would look like, because I don't know if the sport is ready for those two fan bases to go at each other, because they're both crazy in their own rights. The Hocevar Hypers are over here believing that he's the next Dale Earnhardt, despite having never won an Xfinity race or even a Cup Series race at this point. The Chase Sexuals, they're just mad about everything most of the time. They are mad at Allen, they're mad at Chase, they're mad at everybody else on the racetrack, they're mad at the racetracks for not giving Chase wins. Like, there's always something that's going on with them. So these two fan bases going at each other would be pretty entertaining. I think the insults being hurled from side to side would keep everybody engaged for quite some time. We also had Tyler Reddick reporting smoke in the cockpit. Unlike Lando Norris, he was able to continue on in the race and obviously finish second. But he did have damage to that car. He had some rocker panel damage from when he got hit by Josh Berry, had that donut on the side of the car, and then he had a little bit of smoke in the cockpit, but it seemed to clear itself up. Hocevar spun himself out on lap 152. He was able to rebound, though, for a top 10 finish, which is great. We'll get to that in a moment. Denny Hamlin and issues on pit road happened once again. This time, it wasn't a Denny Hamlin issue. It was unfortunately an issue with the pit crew, which they've actually been really, really good this year. So it's unfortunate for them that it struck right now, but typically it's Denny speeding and stuff like that. But during that whole pit stop sequence, we also had Christopher Bell leaving his pit box and tagging the 77 of Carson Hocevar and spun Hocevar around. After the race, Bell was really mad about that, basically blaming the team, the 77, who was not on the lead lap at that moment, for not realizing what was happening with a car that was on the lead lap there. Bell unhappy about that, which I don't blame him, because he ended up finishing down in 29th place. They had some damage to the right front of that race car that they were trying to continually fix after that. In stage number 2, though, we also had Chase Briscoe reporting voltage issues. Managed to nurse it to the end of the race. Great for him. Basically had to turn off everything in the race car to make it to the end, but that was great. Cody Ware reminded everybody that, he is in fact in this race, just spun out and then got stuck because his tires were flat there. Blaney spun off at turn 4. No damage for him. Chase Briscoe won stage number 2. And then stage 3, like we talked about, the big talking point there was those top 4 cars, but nobody really being able to pass one another up there at the front. So Briscoe wins the race. Here's your top 10. Tyler Reddick in second, Eric Jones in third, John Hunter Nemechek in fourth, AJ Allmendinger in fifth, Great run for Legacy Motor Club. Eric Jones in the Southern 500. That dude just has to wish they'd race there every single week. Two of his 3 wins are at the Southern 500. He goes from 19th to finish 3rd in this race. Maybe with a little bit better track position, he probably could have won this race. John Hunter Nemechek drove from 30th all the way up to a P4 finish. Great run for him. AJ Allmendinger 22nd to 5th. Those Cog boys have been bringing fast race cars to the track, and AJ has been trying to capitalize on it and finally did on Sunday. Bubba Wallace in P6. Denny Hamlin, your pole sitter, finishes 7th. Kyle Busch in 8th. Carson Hocevar in 9th. And Chris Buescher rounding out your top 10. Ross Chastain came home in 11th, and he had to save some fuel there at the end of the race because they had a bit of a fueling issue to finish things off. Now, let's talk about the point standings because that's what we're all here for, right? We're in the playoffs. Now, Chase Briscoe obviously wins and locks himself into the next round. You have Denny Hamlin in second, plus 43. Kyle Larson, plus 38. Tyler Reddick, plus 35. Bubba Wallace, plus 25. Byron, plus 25. Blaney, plus 22. Chastain, plus 21. Great rebound for Chastain. I did not have a lot of faith in him coming into the playoffs here, but putting himself 21 points above the cutoff line is really good. Cindric's plus 12, Bell's plus 11, Chase Elliott plus 9, and Shane Van Gisbergen right now plus 3. Was hoping for a better race out of SVG, ends up finishing 32nd. He finished 20th back here in the spring, and he needed to finish 20th again. Now I'm concerned about him not being able to make it out of this first round. Joey Logano, the Hannibal Lecter of the playoffs. He's wildly dangerous. You need to keep him chained up. He is right now 3 points below the cutoff, but like we saw last year in the round of 12, he is Mike Myers. Until he's dead, until his chances are dead, he's never actually dead because he came back from the dead last year and ends up winning a championship. Austin Dillon is minus 8, and then Alex Bowman and Josh Berry are both minus 19 points below the cutoff line. Yeah, they have an uphill battle, those two do. It's not over yet for them, but they've got an uphill battle. Hamlin's in a good spot. Larson's in a good spot. Reddick's in a good spot. I think Bubba and Byron are flirting on being in a pretty good spot, barring nothing catastrophic happening the next 2 weeks. But yeah, things are interesting right now. And we're heading to Gateway, which is kind of the basis of my next topic here. Should Hendrick Motorsports be concerned? On Sunday night at the Southern 500, they had an absolutely terrible night. Yeah, they should be concerned, just like I'm going to throw another ricochet shot at Alabama football, like Alabama football fans should be concerned because they need to be hovering over that panic button. They looked really, really bad. After dominating this race back in the spring, these 4 cars, nobody finished better than 17th. That was Chase Elliott. Kyle Larson finished 19th. William Byron finished 21st, having led 243 laps back in the spring. And then Alex Bowman finished 31st as well. And guess what? They're headed off to Gateway now, which might be Hendrick Motorsports' worst track. I've called Gateway the most forgettable race on the schedule the first 3 years that it was on the schedule. And I think Hendrick Motorsports just forgets that it's on the schedule every single year because they don't run very well there. I went ahead and looked at their average finishes across their 4 drivers, and now Chase Elliott did miss the race in 2023. That went to Corey LaJoie, but Kyle Larson has finishes of 12th, 4th, and 10th there, an average of 8.7. Not that bad, honestly, not really that bad. Chase Elliott has only raced there twice, 21st and 13th. Corey LaJoie did finish 21st there when he subbed for Elliott. Elliott's average finish, P17. William Byron, 19th, 8th, 15th. That's an average finish of 14th. And then you have Alex Bowman, who is 13th, 26th, 28th, an average finish of 22.3. Not ideal for those guys over at Hendrick Motorsports. And it might be time to hit the panic button because they have not run well at flat tracks in the Gen 7 era, which is surprising because they do have a win at Phoenix with William Byron, maybe even with Kyle Larson too, now that I come to think of it. I'll have to go back and double check that. But typically, Alan Gustafson is like a machine at setting up on flat tracks. Like, he made a career about that. Kyle Busch was good at flat tracks. Mark Martin was good at flat tracks. Jeff Gordon was good at flat tracks, all because Alan was pretty good at setting cars up for that. Now, with this Gen 7 car, they seem to really struggle, especially at places like Gateway and places like New Hampshire. Those have been 2 of the most forgettable races on schedule for Hendrick Motorsports, and guess what? They're both in the playoffs now, and that is not ideal for that team over there. Obviously, they can turn things around. We'll have to wait and see. But I think going into next weekend at Gateway, everybody is feeling pretty confident that it's going to be either a Joe Gibbs Racing car or a Team Penske car that's probably going to be battling out for the lead. Last year, we had Christopher Bell. He handed it away to Ryan Blaney, who then handed it off to Austin Cindric, who went on to win the race. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one. for Hendrick Motorsports, there's a lot of questions right now surrounding where they are. Kyle Larson has been seemingly lost since May at the Coke 600 after he did the Indy Charlotte double. Has not run very well since then, has not won since then. Since that time, they only have 2 wins, that being with Chase Elliott in Atlanta and then with William Byron at Iowa, and they've struggled mightily. The top tier Chevy team has not exactly looked like the best one out there. They haven't looked as good as what we've seen out of others over the last few weeks. And yeah, it really showed on Sunday night as well when they just were not able to do anything. Now, Cliff Daniels did tell Kyle Larson that he had damage to his car, which is why he finished 19th and couldn't go any further. But even if he didn't have that damage, was he going to finish in the top 5? I don't think so. He just didn't really seem to have that much speed on Sunday night. So let me know in the comments what you thought about the race, Chase Briscoe's win, what rating you would give it, and yeah, anything else that happened during the race that you thought was interesting or made you mad, I guess. And then should Hendrick Motorsports be concerned about their playoff chances for the rest of the season, especially heading into Gateway, which is, like we just talked about, not one of their best tracks out there. Let me know. Leave your comments there. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at BreakHardBlog.